I'd like to start today's video with a question. Would you like to see Canada join the US and become the 51st state? Or should Donnie forget about this whole idea and focus on his next 4-year term? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Recently, tensions between Canada and the US have cooled due to a temporary pause on tariffs, easing pressure and allowing Canadian politicians to shift their focus. Instead of preparing for trade battles, they are now strengthening ties with other countries, working on new agreements with Europe, and reaching out to partners in the East. That's the big picture, but another side of the story isn't making as many headlines. On the ground in Canada, frustration over trade disputes hasn't just disappeared. It's turning into action. More and more Canadians are backing movements that promote homegrown alternatives, encouraging people to buy local instead of choosing American brands, while some are even cancelling trips to the US as a form of protest. These grassroots efforts may seem small at first, but they could start impacting the American economy beyond just tariffs. If this anti-US sentiment continues to grow, it might not stop at vacations and groceries. What if Canadians begin rejecting American cars or US-made electronics? A full-scale boycott of American goods could have long-term economic consequences. But how did we get here? Since the start of his second term, President Trump has frequently targeted Canada, not just in trade deals, but also in his rhetoric. Using his platform on Truth Social and at rallies, he has revived old debates about US-Canada relations, pushing a bold and controversial idea that Canada might as well become part of the United States. He has repeatedly suggested that with lower taxes and better security under American leadership, Canada would be better off as the 51st state. One of his most talked about remarks came in a post about hockey, where he wrote that he would be calling the Great American Hockey Team before their match against Canada, which with lower taxes and stronger security might someday, maybe soon, become our cherished and very important 51st state. Canadians reacted swiftly, with many seeing it as more than just a casual comment. Some viewed it as an outright dismissal of Canada's independence. Additionally, Trump has repeatedly referred to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as Governor Trudeau, implying that Canada is already just another US state. After a tense meeting at Mar-a-Lago, Trump allegedly quipped that if Canada couldn't stand on its own without US support, it should just make things official and join the US. His rhetoric hasn't been just talk. He has backed it up with repeated threats, warning that unless Canada changes its approach, his administration will impose severe tariffs on Canadian goods. At an early press conference, he cited illegal immigration and drug trafficking as justifications for economic pressure, stating bluntly that if Canada didn't step up to stop the flow of fentanyl and illegal immigrants into the US, we'll have no choice but to hit them where it hurts. Financially, maybe Canada should just join the United States and make it easier on everyone. This wasn't an isolated remark. Trump has woven these statements into a broader strategy, using economic leverage to push Canada toward what he calls becoming the 51st state. However, if Trump thought his words would influence Canadian leaders, the reality has been quite the opposite. Not only have top politicians and government officials firmly rejected the idea, but everyday Canadians have also made it clear they want nothing to do with any kind of US merger. Surveys from multiple sources reveal a strong sense of independence. According to a YouGov poll, 82% of Canadians reject the idea of joining the US, while another survey by Leger found similar results, showing that national pride and skepticism toward Trump's vision run deep. with opposition being even stronger among women and older Canadians. Some of the most vocal opposition has come from those who argue that resistance to the idea is not just political, but deeply tied to Canada's cultural and historical identity. While the political debate continues, the economic impact of Trump's tariffs is already being felt. Reports from Reuters and the AP show that the effects are not just theoretical. They are influencing everyday decisions. Canadians are cancelling trips to US destinations. Some provinces are removing American-made liquor from store shelves, and industries dependent on cross-border trade are feeling the strain as consumer sentiment shifts. A wave of patriotism has swept the marketplace, with social media exploding with hashtags like Boycott USA and Quiet Canada is not for sale. Campaigns encouraging people to shop locally and support Canadian businesses have gained momentum, and retailers report increased demand for Canadian-made products. On the diplomatic front, Canadian leaders have been resolute. Outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has repeatedly affirmed that Canada's natural resources, strong democracy, and distinct culture are not up for negotiation. In multiple public addresses, he has stressed that Trump's trade war not only harms Canada, but also threatens American workers by potentially forcing US manufacturing plants to close, putting thousands of Americans out of work. Former officials, like Chrystia Freeland, have labeled Trump's tariff plans as economic warfare, not just against Canada, but against the US itself, warning that they will drive up prices for American consumers while endangering American jobs. However, amid the tensions, some Canadian leaders have reminded Americans of the deep ties between the two nations, recalling historical moments when Canadians and Americans fought side by side. Trudeau emphasized that strong border security and fair trade can coexist without Canada compromising its independence. Trump's comments have ignited a wave of national pride, particularly on the 60th anniversary of the Canadian flag, as people displayed the maple leaf on homes, cars, and at public events as a statement of defiance. Reports indicate that these displays are more than just celebrations. They are a direct rejection of any notion that Canada could be absorbed into the US. What started as frustration has become a full-fledged movement, with the phrase, "Canada is not for sale," appearing in hashtags, protests, and merchandise. Businesses have capitalized on the movement, selling t-shirts, hats, and bumper stickers with the slogan, "But beyond words." This movement is shaping how Canadians spend their money. One of the most significant shifts has been in travel. While Canadian families once flocked to the US for vacations, many are now cancelling their trips entirely, choosing domestic destinations or traveling abroad instead, keeping their tourism dollars away from the US economy. This is not a minor impact. It is turning into a significant financial hit. The US Travel Association estimates that if the trend continues, the US could lose up to $2.1 billion in Canadian visitor spending, putting as many as 14,000 American jobs at risk, especially in tourism-reliant states like Florida. Hotels, restaurants, and attractions that depend on Canadian visitors are already feeling the effects. Beyond tourism, industries such as aerospace, construction, and consumer electronics could also suffer from ongoing trade barriers, leading to material shortages and rising production costs. Rising tensions between Canada and the US are having long-term economic consequences, particularly affecting the travel industry. Airlines like WestJet have seen a 25% drop in bookings to US destinations, forcing them to adjust schedules, while Air Canada is closely monitoring the situation. The impact extends beyond flights. as fewer Canadians crossing the border means less spending at American hotels, restaurants, and attractions. Some Canadian businesses are shifting their focus to domestic tourism, and even school trips to the US are being reconsidered or cancelled, such as in Quebec, where officials cite political and economic tensions. Families and organizations are also opting for local destinations instead of US travel, with some seeing this as a symbolic stand against US policies that challenge Canada's economic independence. Surveys indicate a growing mindset shift towards economic self-reliance, with Canadians supporting local businesses and choosing homegrown travel options over American imports. Despite deep economic ties, with trade between the two nations reaching $1.2 trillion in 2024, and Canada being the top buyer of US exports, recent tensions highlight the vulnerabilities in this interdependence. The USMCA agreement, which replaced NAFTA in 2020, helped modernize trade, but Canada remains crucial to the US economy, supplying 44% of its total energy imports and supporting over 2 million American jobs. With Canadian energy exports to the US valued at approximately $80 billion in 2024, the relationship between the two nations remains essential, but current developments suggest a shift in how Canadians approach their economic and travel choices.